Good morning, people. How are you doing? Today is the 10th day of January 2024. It is now 9:30 in the morning. I started this video at 6 a.m. after doing a couple hours of work on the process. Again, the video recorded, everything was fine, but then when I went to play it, it wouldn't play because of this reason or that reason. The same thing I've had with this ongoing problem for the last couple of days. And I was rather upset, frustrated with it. Bo brought me a toy. So I decided what I'd do is I would update OBS. And then OBS demanded that I update my NVIDIA drivers, and then I updated the NVIDIA drivers, but that stopped because there wasn't enough hard drive space for the 1 gigabyte needed for the upgrade. For the update. My throat is out now, going out sore. Turns out that was my problem all along. There was only 500 megabytes of space left on my hard drive. And that was the problem with my recording of videos this whole time. So I started making the video again. And I had to sit through commercials for these videos, and I said something I shouldn't have because I was pissed off and about the fucking commercials. And so I had to delete that 25-minute version of this. So now, here we are. Take 3. Third time's the charm, right? I'm going to talk to you about Alex Jones. I'm going to talk to you about Jimmy Dore. I'm going to talk to you about Steve Bannon. I'm going to talk to you about this whole notion that Israel let it happen on purpose on October the 7th. And I'm going to show you the reasons behind this deliberate disinformation that's being put out there. Jimmy Dore, thanks to Chase. I'll show you the link to Chase. I'm not signed on Twitter on this system, and of course you can't go on Twitter anymore unless you log in, so I can't show you Chase's thing, but there's a link in the description down below. If this video works, if I get through this without saying something offensive, which odds are that's not going to happen, but we'll give it a shot just for the old college try, so to speak. So thanks to Chase, who sent me the original link to the Jimmy Dore thing, which set me on this long thing, this journey this morning. It's an important thing to talk about. Let's stop in the fucking alt media believing these morons and look at what they are doing. They are trying to fucking keep us from looking at what's going on, looking at the obvious, and now someone's outside my fucking house. They're trying to keep us from looking at what's going on and coming to the rational conclusion that, yes, we can pick sides in this. And the side we're going to pick, or should pick, is not the ones who are bombing the fuck out of children and women in order to steal fucking land. This is the point. And this is what, listen, you think I'm making this shit the fuck up? This is a direct quote. Don't buy into the corporate mind control of, are you for the Palestinians or are you for the Israelis? You realize we're all being targeted by the same globalist forces. The globalists, says Alex Jones. He's gaslighting his audience. And he's doing so on behalf of Zionists in Israel. Why is that? Because he's teamed up with people like Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, Breitbart, Alex Jones, all proudly associated with Israeli intelligence. Especially Breitbart and Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon is a fucking straight up goddamn Zionist. Who I will show you a quote from him in a second. He's like, oh my God. These people are doing all this to make things harder for Benjamin Netanyahu. He's in support of Benjamin Netanyahu. That's not just one source. There's all kinds of sources. He's a straight up fucking Zionist. Proud to be a Zionist. And he's in bed with Alex Jones to push this bullshit story. We'll talk about all of that in a second. Again, I want to thank Chase. He is at twitter.com/left-turns-only. Thank you, Chase. I don't know if it's a male or female. I'm sorry. I don't know. But thank you, Chase, for the hat tip for this. Now, I've already gone through and done the fucking commercials, so you haven't got to watch that, which is what set me off the last time. Listen, man,
blaming who did it. So I don't know if it's Netanyahu, whether they didn't tell him.
It's Netanyahu, or they didn't tell him. He's saying that his Lord and Savior, fucking General fucking Flynn or some shit, has said, "Oh yeah, there's no way this happened without the IDF doing a stand down." And he's mentioning the fact that, they knew about it. And he says, well, according to the IDF, they told Benjamin Netanyahu, but I don't know if that happened or not. He's trying his best to throw the IDF, low-level fucking IDF generals, lose their fucking jobs, throw them under the fucking bus. That's what he's trying his best to do. And there's Jimmy Dore sitting there looking at him with his serious face, as if he's a real journalist. He is cross-promoting with Alex Jones in order that he can get some of Alex Jones's followers, knowing full well that some of his followers will be like, oh, well, he makes sense. He seems to know what he's talking about. I'll go over and see what Alex Jones has to say about this. And this is where he's going to end up. This is where his fans are going to end up. Being sucked into that fucking vortex. That disinformation vortex coming from that piece of shit.
But the point is, they have hundreds of attack helicopters. I looked it up.
Oh God!
170 Apaches. They've got hundreds of attack helicopters. I looked it up. 10 miles from where that rock concert or rave happened, where everybody got killed tragically, they had a whole bunch of attack helicopters, fueled, ready, pilots sitting around drinking coffee. So a helicopter could have been there in minutes. A few helicopters, when they break through the first fence, with bulldozers, could have been there and stopped them. Instead, they let them break through, overrun, go in, kill thousands, grab hundreds.
Kill thousands?
Drag them back across right after Biden gives Iran $6 billion. Right after
that didn't happen.
Iran, Hezbollah's now taking credit for Hezbollah advising Hamas. They go in, and then Hamas gets elevated around the world, get to be these heroes.
Hamas gets to be the heroes.
Israel gets to get the oil and the gas and push people out of Gaza. Send the refugees here. Netanyahu gets the new 9/11, the political distraction. Iran gets to flex their muscles. Wars help the state. I'm not saying they all work together, but there's a lot of back channel wink going on here. And so bottom line, we know Israel stood down. That is a fact. 7 hours is conservative.
7 hours is conservative. Okay, let's start with that disinformation. Here we go again. Okay. Sorry, it's a long time to make a 30-minute video. Here we go again. We know from reports, we saw the video, we saw the documentary made by the IDF featuring the 4 teenage women they claim were the fucking crew on these tanks, on one of these tanks. There were 3 sets of three crews like this, and they're all fucking teenage women apparently. And they all flew over there in their fucking tanks as fast as they fucking could. And they got there very quickly. And while the confrontation was still going on, they were told, according to the person in the tank who was supposedly a tank commander, some teenage chick, which I did videos on. You can watch them yourselves. She said she was told by some Israeli soldier who was already there, they got Palestinians in there and they're holding hostages, just open fire on them. And she said, what, with the tank shells? He goes, yeah, it doesn't matter. And she's like, well, no, I won't do that. But instead, she gave the order for her tank crew to open fire with a mounted 50 caliber machine gun, which blew holes clean through the goddamn thing. That's better than a tank shell. She said, according to her, other tank commanders gave other orders and they fired shells. They admitted to firing shells. Not 6 hours, that's conservative. Not 7 hours, not 8 hours, less than an hour after the whole thing started. They were there on site with tanks, shooting people. And they said it was confusing. We couldn't really tell who was who. This is what he's doing. This whole thing was, there was a stand down and nobody was there from the IDF for 6, 7 hours. That means everybody who was killed by the Palestinians. Do you understand? Him suggesting that the Apache attack helicopters, they were sitting around drinking coffee. We know from the IDF themselves and from the Times of Israel and from Haaretz and from the pilots that they were told to get out there and open up on the fucking people. And they had a hard time figuring out who was who. Because remember, there were some Israelis there carrying AK-47s because they were like security. And they were fucking settler types. And they were shooting at the Palestinians, shooting back. They couldn't tell who was who. They were given the order to open fire. It doesn't matter. Kill the goddamn Palestinian. It doesn't matter. They were told, and I quote, empty your tanks, come back, get reloaded, and go back out there, which means use all your ammunition. And that's what they did. And the Israeli soldiers and the Israeli pilots admitted to doing that. And firing upon. This wasn't 6 hours later. It wasn't 7 hours later. This was less than an hour. Lastly, talk about the drones. Not lastly. Third, talk about the drones. We know for a fact the drones fired Hellfire rockets on targets. We know for a fact. And then they took the fucking wreckages from the fucking vehicles that were clearly burned by something that wasn't a fucking Molotov or a fucking RPG. They took these fucking destroyed vehicles and rather than just, okay, we got to get rid of them, they shredded them and then they buried them in Israeli cemeteries. Why? Because it's illegal. If they said, oh, there's some DNA, ergo they're still Israelis. We have to bury them in a cemetery with dignity. They didn't do that with the buses when Hamas used to use suicide bombers and kill civilians. They didn't bury a bus in a cemetery, but they did these. Why? They did these because anybody could dig them up and do tests and realize, oh, wait, the high explosive residue on these fucking vehicles, the things that burned these fucking vehicles, Hamas doesn't have that, but the IDF does. Those are Hellfire rockets. Big difference. Very easy to differentiate between one and the other. So they buried this shit in Israeli cemeteries where it's illegal to exhume the bodies once a Jewish person in an Israeli cemetery is buried. They literally buried the evidence. That wasn't 6 hours, 7 hours after the whole thing. I remember when it was happening. 6, 7 hours after it was happening, politicians were talking and it was over. They were getting ready to move into Gaza. So what he's doing is just lying through his fucking teeth. Like he always does. Remember, Alex Jones, he was my fucking co-defendant in the fucking lawsuit that took 4 fucking years. I never met the man. But I know about Alex Jones. He admitted in court testimony that he was created by an ex-Air Force fucking intelligence agent or officer when he was just doing public access. They just brought him up. They cultivated him. He said the guy he got him syndicated across the fucking nation and gave him a team, according to Alex Jones, in the court testimony, a team to build his fucking website, to build his brand, and to help manage him. He was a fucking intelligence asset from the very beginning. And that's what fucking Bill Cooper used to say about the motherfucker. And it's true. It's a fact. He's bragged about having assets in Mossad, helping him out, feeding him information. He's bragged about that in the past. And his association with Breitbart and with fucking Steve Bannon, both of them are fucking Mossad assets. Both Breitbart and Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon's obvious. I'm a Christian Zionist, says Steve Bannon. He's praised by it. And I'll show you in a few minutes where he's doing everything he can to blame China for it and do everything he can to help keep Bibi Netanyahu in power. That's Steve Bannon. That's the whole point of this shit. Don't pick a side. God's sake, don't pick a side. The side that's being slaughtered and genocide is being committed against them. Don't pick that side, because globalists. It's such obvious propaganda and bullshit. It's almost not worth fucking talking about. And here I am, the third incarnation of this fucking video. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to keep hearing that, but that's just the thing. And he's sending his fucking audience. He's cross-promoting with this guy so he can build his brand as if he needs another $1 million fucking mansion in fucking California. This guy he's either fucking complicit or he's stupid. His message is literally the antithesis of what he says. Talking about what's going on in Gaza and the Palestinians. It is the antithesis. And it is based on just plain fucking stupidity. General Flynn says, screw you and General Flynn. Here's the thing. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. They had information. They had information that Hamas and that the Palestinian Jihad and the other fighter groups, resistance groups, had a big plan. And they ignored it. Why did they ignore it? What happened? Why should Bibi Netanyahu be fired? Why should the head of the IDF and Mossad be fired? It's very simple. They dismissed it as only, well, this is something that they, this is, what's the word they were using? These plans are just, it's something they'd like to do, but they'll never do it. Why did they think that way? Because they thought they were so superior, their knowledge was so superior, their technology was so superior, they could never pull it off in the first place, and it's aspirational, they said, and that they would never be able to, the orcs, to use a word that they like to use, on the other side of the fence would never be able to organize well enough. And they wouldn't have the fucking courage to attack. They wouldn't be smart enough to beat the fucking systems. They wouldn't have the organizational skills to work together because they can't work with each other. And they wouldn't have the courage to pull it off, to attempt it. So they dismissed it as simply aspirational. Oh, it's just a plan. They're never going to do that. We're fine. Everything's fine. And they didn't think about it. And then one day it happened. And when it did, all hell broke loose. They would rather the alt media and the people who follow alt media think to themselves, yeah, they must have let it happen on purpose, or somebody, maybe not Bibi, maybe Bibi wasn't told about it, Mossad was, maybe it was some low-level guy in the fucking IDF who had this information and he let it happen on purpose. Maybe it's because they had some plans to, no. They're not as secure as they would like to have the people of Israel think. That's another reason why the Mossad will feed that information into people like fucking Steve Bannon and fucking Alex Jones, to push that story because they're being viewed by people in Israel as well. They would rather have them think it must have been somebody on the inside, and they'll fire some low-level guy at the IDF, and they'll do this. But they won't ever get to the real problem. The root of the problem was because they need them to feel secure, because that's the whole fucking point of having a government in the first goddamn place. And if your government can't fucking protect you from Hamas on the other side of the fucking chain link fence, then what good is your government? You need to replace them. That's called a vote of no confidence, which is coming. This is all being done to keep Bibi in place and keep the head of the IDF in place and keep the head of the fucking Mossad in place. This is pure fucking disinformation and propaganda being fed to you by self-admitted Zionists. And I in the previous video, I railed on this guy. He's a fucking moron. And somehow or another, they had him testify at a UN Security Council meeting. Jesus fucking Christ. As a journalist, wearing his stupid journo hat. Jesus Christ. Let me play a little bit of this for you.
We really need big terror attacks. We really need Pearl Harbor events to get Americans to give up their rights. I mean, take what just happened in Israel. Totally tragic. My heart goes out to all the been killed or lost loved ones or been injured. But there's no way that one of the best intelligence agencies in the world didn't know that was coming.
How is that? Why is that?
Massive buildup, the 5,000 missiles, the paragliding attacks, all of that. And so there was clearly a stand down there. And now...
Why was that clearly a stand down? It's got to be clearly a stand down. He's just tossing that fucking out there. There was 5,000. What they did was they launched a whole shit ton of fucking rockets over here, like 5,000 fucking homemade rockets, and everyone was like, oh my God, and they're looking over there, and oh, what's going on over here? And they distracted them. And as soon as they did that, as soon as they were distracted, they targeted the cameras, took the cameras out, and the 2 automated fucking gun systems they had, which were useless. Iron Dome is shit, by the way. So if you think everything the Israelis fucking make in terms of security is A1 fucking perfection, yeah. But then they blew the goddamn fences and they blew the fucking walls, and then within seconds, through the fucking holes went trucks with guys on the back of them, and fucking dudes on dirt bikes. And they only had to cross the distance I showed you on the map in the previous video. They only had to cross a distance of 5 football fields. They were there. I could make it back when I was a kid. I could make it younger. I could make it across 5 football fields in a minute. Easily. Those guys are probably in better shape than I was. And that's on foot. They were there instantly. Now, of course, it didn't take long. They responded. They had the attack helicopters in the air. They had the fucking tanks there. They had soldiers there. Did I tell you the fourth thing that proof that his bullshit story about 6 hours, 7 hours? We have video. The people were still running from the goddamn rave. There was video on a highway. I covered this as well. IDF soldiers, not reserves, not people who are off duty in their clothes, in their street clothes, soldiers, groups of them, running down the highway. They see this is broad daylight. They see the fucking Palestinians in the field, and they start shooting at them. And the Palestinians shoot back. And the IDF guys are hiding behind civilian vehicles. And the video I showed you was taken from a cell phone. This civilian in the civilian vehicle, holding camera up like this, with the IDF soldier standing right beside him, firing using his fucking vehicle as cover. So they were all there. His story about 6 hours is bullshit. his story about a stand down is bullshit. He's like, oh, so obviously there was a stand down. No, there wasn't. You're making assumptions based on nothing. This was carefully fucking planned. They set a distraction. The distraction got the attention of the fucking IDF. They immediately targeted the cameras. They immediately fucking targeted the two little fucking automated bullshit systems they had. They blew the fucking fences and the walls, and their guys were through them in vehicles. 500 yards away from the targets that they had picked. Don't tell me that you had to have a stand down for that. They were fucking chain link fences, for God's sake. But again, what he's doing is in support of the narrative that they want to push to the Israelis. We'll fire the guys who did the stand down. And of course, that'll just be some low-level guys in the IDF and the guys in the Southern Command. See that? It was their fault. And their fault only. It's stupid. But then he goes even further. I tell you, this guy is deep state. He does the fucking work for the deep state, always has. Bill Cooper said that back in 2000. He is a fucking asset and always has been. And you'll notice he gets real blinky when he lies.
The West will take more of the people's rights. Israel will be able to crack down and take more of their people's rights, which is a big debate over there. Hamas is being funded by Hezbollah, which is Iran. We just had Biden a month ago give $6 billion to Iran.
Look at that look on his face. He knows how stupid that is. They didn't give $6 billion to Iran. But notice he's working Iran in there. He's going to work China in there in a few minutes. But look at the look on his face. He knows what he's saying is stupid. It's $6 billion. They worked out a fucking deal. They got some fucking hostages back from the Iranians. The $6 billion hasn't even been paid to him yet. You know why? Because it was Iran's money to start with. But our bank seized it. Because they want that money. They always want that money. They haven't given up on it yet. They haven't released the money yet.
And now the mullahs are bragging that they were behind the attack, Hezbollah funding Hamas. So really, those aren't even predictions. It's clear that Hezbollah and Hamas have tens of thousands of men and women as sleeper cells that are, quote, other than Mexican, that the Border Patrol lists every month, tens of thousands coming across the Texas and Arizona and California sectors. And it's an easy equation to predict that there's a wide probability that Hezbollah and Hamas at some point are going to attack sports stadiums. They're going to attack colleges.
What the fuck is he talking about? He says people who are listed as other than Mexicans, it's easy to see, they're Hezbollah and fucking Hamas. It used to be they said they were ISIS. Remember that shit? ISIS had I think General Flynn made up some bullshit story about ISIS training people in Mexico. Because they said at the fucking Border Patrol, other than Mexican. Well, that means that it has to be Hamas and fucking Hezbollah. No, it doesn't mean if it's other than Mexican, that could be Peruvian, Guatemalan, Chilean, Nicaraguan, French, Nigerian, American. American is other than Mexican. Other than Mexicans, a wide group of fucking people. And this moron sitting there running his fucking mouth was stupid. See that? Other than Mexican, that means it's clear it's fucking Hamas is going to do another 9/11 on us. This is the shit that Jimmy Dore is sending his fucking followers to go experience.
Are going to attack synagogues. They're going to shoot up mass gatherings.
He's just making fucking, they're going to shoot up mass gatherings. They're going to bring in a fucking biological weapon. Where would they be? Oh, well, they come across the border and they'll be east, west, south, and north of fucking Dallas and these big caves, these extensive cave systems. Well, thank you, Mr. Rumsfeld. I mean, Alex Jones. What the fuck? Look at him. Who the fuck takes this guy seriously? Mother Jones. David Corn. Yeah, I know. Jesus Christ. Did an article about these dickheads. So naturally, this week, when Steve Bannon wanted to discuss the conflict underway in Israel and Palestine on his internet talk show, The War Room, he turned to Jones. Obviously, you go to that motherfucker. Obviously, what you do is go to this motherfucker. Keeping in mind, of course, Steve Bannon is a pure Zionist asset of Mossad. Pure 100% Zionist asset of Mossad. From his old Breitbart days. Which, by the way, so is Alex Jones. During the broadcast, he noted he was very concerned a trap has been laid for us in Gaza by the Chinese Communist Party and the Persians. The Persians is how Bannon refers to Iran. Everybody, right? It's got to be Iran too. We got to appease our masters in fucking Tel Aviv. And he suggests that Tehran and Beijing had somehow cooked up the crisis to suck the United States into a war and distract it from China's plans to dominate the world. Oh my God. After making that point, he turned to Jones, who fleshed out the conspiracy Bannon had hinted at. Jones urged viewers to look at the multi-dimensional level, not just a one. He's so deep. Listen, do you remember the deepness? All the evidence he shared with? He's deep. Why did Biden give $6 billion 5 weeks ago to the mullahs in Iran, who then gave it to Hezbollah and gave it to Hamas? Didn't happen, by the way. Why did we give them 80 billion plus weapons and equipment in Afghanistan just 2 years ago? Because we got our asses kicked and told to get the fuck out. You dumb fuck. And that's Afghanistan. You're lumping them all together? It's all the same people? The Arabs? Why are they doing this? Because there's a larger globalist forces. And of course, Communist China's right in the center of all that. Communist China. China isn't communist, you stupid, fat motherfucker. China is a regulated market economy. They are fucking capitalists, you ignorant, fat, balding, lying piece of shit. It's been a long morning. Of course, communist China is right in the center of that. The jewel and the crown. And they want to wear our America. Want to wear our America? Wear our America. What the fuck? Wear out America? Who knows? Destabilize America and drive nations of the world away from a Western unipower to this multi-power polar world they talk about. That would really end up unseating the U.S. as the dominant force on the planet. Jones's feed was then cut off by a quote-unquote technical glitch at that point, and his ravings came to an end. Fact-checked, Biden did not hand over $6 billion to Iran. As part of a deal to free hostages, he unfroze Iranian funds for use for humanitarian purposes, and that money has not, as of yet, been released. Yet later in the show, Bannon amplified the idea that the new Israel-Hamas crisis was covertly orchestrated by China and Iran as part of the 10,000-year-long crusade waged by the Persians against the West. The Persians. Wow, that's some fucking deep, deep shit there, huh? He went on to claim the unnamed nefarious actors had tried to force Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu out of office the same way they tried, the same playbook they ran on Trump. He is 100% in support of keeping Bibi Netanyahu in office because he's bought and paid for. Steve Bannon, the fucking Zionist. The fucking Zionist. A fucking lying piece of shit, backstabbing Zionist. An apparent reference to the widespread protests against Netanyahu that raged in Israel prior to the war and his ongoing criminal trial for alleged bribery and fraud. And referencing the Israeli military's failure to pick up warnings of Hamas attack and respond quickly, he observed, is the military there? Is the problem that it's woke like the U.S. military? Blaming the IDF. Remember, I talked the other day about their war cabinet. There's no fighting in the war room. They were literally fighting in the fucking war room in Tel Aviv. They're supposed to go in there last Thursday. They're supposed to go in there and plan for the post-fucking Gaza, post-fucking Palestinian Gaza, and all the reconstruction and all the fucking businesses coming in. But all that's gone to shit. Because they can't keep bombing fucking civilians and getting away with it forever, and the rest of the world has told them. Even the United States. Big Brother is telling the little bully on the block, dude, I ain't got your back no more. You're about to get fucked up. You best get your fucking act right. And that's what Blinken did. And we'll talk about that in a second. But they're fighting in the fucking war room. Why were they fighting? Because Bibi's trying to throw the fucking military under the bus. And the IDF is trying to do their own investigation and prove that Bibi did in fact, and the Mossad did in fact, have access to this intelligence a year before that this shit was coming. They're saying, you ain't throwing us under the bus. Fuck you, throwing shit, doing all this in fucking Hebrew, I guess, or whatever fucking language that they use. And throwing shit at each other. Literally a fucking fight. They had to break it up. And then Bibi was pissed because someone from inside the war room, Jesus Christ. It's like, they're like fucking children. Someone from inside the war room leaked it, and he's mad. Now, then he wanted to put legislation out there to make all his war room people take lie detector tests. He's lost it. And you got people like fucking Alex Jones, people like Steve Bannon, and people like Jimmy fucking Dore doing their fucking level best to help save that piece of shit's job. On his own InfoWars show, Jones more fully explained what's actually happening in the Middle East. He counseled his viewers to consider the third dimension, fourth dimensional, fifth dimension, deep analysis. Don't buy into the corporate mind control of, are you for the Palestinians or are you for the Israelis? You realize we're all being targeted by the same globalist forces. It's obvious. Are you on the side of people who are fighting for their own goddamn liberty, or are you on the side of people who are using our goddamn weapons, paid for by our fucking money, to bomb women and children into submission, make them flee so that they can steal their fucking land? But Alex Jones will tell you, don't pick a side, because globalists. Jones asserted that Israel founded Hamas, lie, and that Netanyahu purposely stood down the Israeli military during the Hamas attack because he wanted a war to distract attention from his corruption scandal. Bullshit. What's going to happen is what's happening. what's happening is this. Obviously, here go out. The links are down below. Steve Bannon, Breitbart, Alex Jones, assets of the fucking Zionists in Israel, assets of the Likud party, assets of Mossad. I'm not the first person to tell you that. Lastly, I'll tell you this. This is what's happened today, 20 hours ago. I told you all that so I can tell you this.
Lower intensity phase in northern Gaza, and as the IDF scales down its forces there, we agreed today on a plan for the UN to carry out an assessment mission. It will determine what needs to be done to allow displaced Palestinians to return safely to homes in the north. Now, this is not going to happen overnight. There are serious security, infrastructure, and humanitarian challenges, but the mission will start a process that evaluates these obstacles and how they can be overcome. In today's meetings, I was also crystal clear. Palestinian civilians must be able to return home as soon as conditions allow. They must not be pressed to leave Gaza.
You will not fucking drive them out into the deserts of the Sinai so you can steal the fucking land. That is what the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, told the Israelis in the war room. It's over. It's done. He went and talked to the heads of 4 different Arab nations. Why? If he was going to go, in a situation like this, you go and talk to the ones that I'm going to do this. Okay, I do this. What do you say? Okay, you say this. I'll tell them that. You say this. I'll tell them that. And then you go talk to the other party. And you say, this is what's going to happen because this is what they said is going to happen. He didn't go to fucking Israel first. He went to them. Why did he go to them? I told you before. This whole thing is about the world island. And the big powers, the real masters of the universe, are tired of this. There is a conflict between their multipolar worldview and our unipolar World Economic Forum, BlackRock dictates everything worldview. Okay? There's a major fucking conflict here. There's a war in the heavens. And it's been the most important thing going on for quite a while. He went and talked to 4 nations that make up, he knows we're losing Iraq too. The people he works for, they're about to lose fucking lots and lots and lots of money and potential profits. As everyone in that fucking world fucking island, check out Zygmunt Brzezinski and the Grand Chessboard, are looking to now side with China and the multipolar worldview as opposed to us. They're looking to start doing their trade on anything other than the US dollar. This is going to cost them billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it's all being done because Bibi Netanyahu, the head of the IDF, the head of the Mossad, and the head of the fucking Likud party, and Ben Giver and all these fucks can't bring themselves to end this situation and then let the chips fall where they may in Israel. This is what Antony Blinken is going to tell him. There's one way out of this, and it's not going to be you get to kill 1 million goddamn Palestinians and children, and we all sit around twiddling our thumbs trying to think of some justification for letting it happen so you can steal all of fucking Palestine and make it into Israel. Not going to happen. Never was going to happen. And for those people who say they let it happen on purpose because they're crazy enough to think that was going to happen, you're a fucking idiot. They were never going to be able to drive all of these Palestinians who live there, 2.3 million of them, in the harshest conditions to live in the fucking world. And each and every one of them could have left whenever they wanted to. But they're Palestinians, and they live in Palestine, and they're not about to hand it over to the goddamn Zionists. Whether they're Zionists in Israel, or whether they're Zionists like Steve Bannon and, that's right, Alex Jones. They knew that wasn't going to happen. It's never going to happen. They fucked up, is what happened. And everything else being said about it is just an effort to try to keep them in fucking power. And that's a fact.
As I told the Prime Minister, the United States unequivocally rejects any proposals advocating for the resettlement of Palestinians outside of Gaza. And the Prime Minister reaffirmed to me today that this is not the policy of Israel's government. We also spoke about the tensions on Israel's northern border with Lebanon, where Hezbollah continues to launch daily rocket attacks on Israel. As I told the War Cabinet and other senior officials, the United States stands with Israel in ensuring its northern border is secure.
However,
we're fully committed to working with Israel to find a diplomatic solution that avoids escalation and allows families to return to their homes.
I showed you the other day in a video, Times of Israel, quoting sources from inside the Biden White House saying, stop picking a fight with fucking Lebanon to stay in power. That came from the Times of Israel.
To live securely in northern Israel and also in southern Lebanon. Finally, we continue to discuss how to build a more durable peace and security for Israel within the region. As I told the Prime Minister, every partner that I met on this trip said that they're ready to support a lasting solution that ends the long-running cycle of violence and ensures Israel's security. But they underscored that this can only come through a regional approach that includes a pathway to a Palestinian state. These goals are attainable, but only if they're pursued together. This crisis has clarified you can't have one without the other, and you can't achieve either goal without an integrated regional approach. To make this possible, Israel must be a partner to Palestinian leaders who are willing to lead their people in living side by side in peace with Israel as neighbors. And Israel must stop taking steps that undercut Palestinians' ability to govern themselves effectively. Extremist settler violence carried out with impunity, settlement expansion, demolitions, evictions, all make it harder, not easier, for Israel to achieve lasting peace and security. The Palestinian Authority also has a responsibility to reform itself, to improve its governance, issues I plan to raise with President Abbas, among others, when we meet tomorrow. If Israel wants its Arab neighbors to make the tough decisions necessary to help ensure its lasting security, Israeli leaders will have to make hard decisions themselves. When President Biden addressed the people of Israel days after the October 7th attack, he made a very simple pledge. The United States has Israel's back, today, tomorrow, always. The friendship between our nations is truly exceptional. It's our unique bond.
Okay, there you go. What's he saying? He's saying that because he's gone and talked to these leaders of other Arab nations in the fucking world island, who make up the world island, because of his bosses, not Joe Biden, because of his real bosses, telling him, let's finish this. Let's get this thing to... The only solution is the two-state solution. Israel and Palestine, June 1967, Green Line borders, living side by side in peace. And it can be done. And it will be done. And he, the Secretary of State of the United States of America, just said that. He said that was the message he gave to the fucking idiots and Zionists and racists in the war room in Tel Aviv. That's the solution. That's the only solution. And when this thing ends and they withdraw all their fucking troops out of fucking Gaza, and Israel has a few moments to catch their breath, the vote of no confidence will come through. Bibi Netanyahu will be gone. He will, if he's not forced to resign before that, as will the head of the fucking IDF and the head of the Mossad, and probably the heads of the fucking Likud party. The Likud party will be voted out. They'll be gone. They'll be done. They'll be toast. They're already toast. They know they are a what do you call it when it's they're lame duck. The Likud party is lame duck. They have no power. The fucking Supreme Court just issued 2 fucking rulings. 2. In direct contrast to what fucking Likuds and fucking Bibi Netanyahu want. So, that's what's happening in Israel, in Palestine. This whole notion that they let it happen on purpose it's propaganda that is designed to besmirch Hamas by association, by saying, oh, Hamas is fucking Israel, Israel is Hamas, they work hand in. That's bullshit. It's also designed to, okay, we can say the IDF knew and maybe some lower level guys knew and they let it happen on purpose and you can get rid of them and everything will be fine. No. The let it happen on purpose thing is completely designed to do 2 things. It's designed to, A, try to instill back in the fucking Israeli civilians the sense of safety and security on this side of a stupid chain link fence. And 2, it is designed made entirely in an effort to try to keep someone like Benjamin Netanyahu and the head of Mossad in power. And that's it. That's what it's there for. It is absolutely 100% disinformation. I want to thank Chase for posting that link for me. I'll give you a link to his Twitter feed down below. Crossing my fingers that this video actually works, because if it doesn't, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyway, I thank you for your time and have a good Wednesday, and I'll see you next time. All right? Bye-bye.